Yeah, exactly. So three things: one, being comfortable with it; two, knowing where it is and where's the fastest point; and three.
Yeah. Right. So this will be my first podcast for the channel, and you're going to be the first guest. How do you feel?
I'm excited, mate.
Yeah, no,
Of
it's
course,
good.
of course.
I realized doing our first our Z cars catch up, I was like, wait a second, I'm talking to like racing car drivers here. I could have a racing car driver as a guest for a podcast for my channel,
I
and
thought I thought the Z Cars podcast is going to go on the channel as well.
yeah, it is. It is. I've got it loaded up.
Oh, but different playlists or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, well, it'll be
So,
up there. It'll be up there as a podcast, but
as in, I thought the Z Cars group one was going to be for your channel, and then is this one-to-one thing going to be like a different
no,
thing?
it'll be the same thing.
Same,
So this will
same
be like
podcast.
podcast number 3,
Yeah.
but it's our
Cool.
first one to one, and I don't think I
One-to-one.
could have
Yeah,
chosen a better person, really.
that's what I was trying to understand. But yeah, that's cool, mate. That's cool.
Yeah. So let's get started then. A little bit about you. When did you get into motorsport, into racing?
Okay, so I'm Jamie Jeffrey, by the way. I'm 21 years old. I'm located in Reading, and I got into motorsport in 2015. We just sold my trials motorbike, and me and Dad were sort of thinking, what do we want to do? We want to do something with an engine because we love not having to walk generally. I'm joking. So we sold the bike, and we saw this E30 advertised. And we'd never really done racing before, but we'd always been interested and loved seeing it on TV. So we got this E30. It needed a bit of work doing to it. We didn't do, at the time, due to funding, we didn't do anything with the engine. So I just sort of got on with it, and it was a great car to start in. It was a BMW E30 320.
Yeah.
And all the cars
That's a
we raced
four-cylinder one, isn't it?
that was no six cylinder.
Six-cylinder.
And it's great because the series is called Production BMW Championship, and when I was racing in it, we had up to 25, 30 cars. So you always had someone to race against, and because the car had no power, you'd always be pushing it to the max just to get the most out of it. And it sort of teaches a lot about momentum racing. So I did that for a year. Eventually the engine did go bang. It was deteriorating through the season. So I was always on the back foot it was my first season, so it was just for fun and just get it under my belt. But
yeah,
I was always on the back foot, I felt. So actually it probably made me a better driver. First season was 2016, and then at the end of it, we sort of thought, we're moving to the Zeds, and then me and my dad could afford to both race, because in the E30 it was just me. So Z cars ever since, really.
Yeah, and that's gone pretty well. The Z car series. I mean, you guys took it over, got the first season done. We did the second season last year. Or was it the first season last year with you guys in charge?
So first season first season with our own grid was 2019, but we'd been running for a couple of years before that. But in the all-comers series, we were sort of piggybacked onto them while we were growing in numbers. And yeah, we had, 14 cars on our first, 16 cars in our own first own grid round at Donington.
I think so, yeah. I think Donington and Cadwell were the two biggest grids. I think it was maybe 13, 14 cars.
Oh yeah, well yeah. So that was amazing to see. I think that was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then obviously this season would have been the second one, but it's been a little bit stumped.
Yeah, but we're raring to go, and whenever we can get out, I think we'll have a massive grid by then, and everyone will be, wanting to get out, show everyone their new livery and what they've done to the car.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Yeah, that'd be really good fun once we get out. So going back to the start, do you remember the feeling that you had when you in your first race, you were sat waiting for the lights to go out? Do you remember that feeling? What was
I
it like?
do. So I was in the E30 and I was 16. So I'd never driven on the road. I'd done quite a bit of driving in some under 17 car clubs, and I'd driven a fair amount of cars, but it's a different experience. Obviously, you've experienced going out on a track in a race
Yeah,
car, and especially because I hadn't done much road driving, like it for me, it was just mind-boggling. And I'd done a track day, 2 track days, and then I turned up to the race weekend, and I was buzzing. I was just like, this is fantastic. And you go into the assembly area feeling sick. You usually sat there for half an hour while they're messing about, getting the grid sorted or whatever. And I put my helmet on, strapped into this metal race car, and I was just like, I can't get out, and I'm stuck in it, and I feel well sick. But I was just like, this is fantastic. And I got out after it, and I was just going, I was like, Dad, that is mad. And I was like, this is like 10 times better than a track day. And I was just so good. I was lost for words. I was just saying that I was just mad. So that's how I'd explain it. You said when the lights go out, but same feeling for me. And even now, I'm more calm now, but it probably is exciting as I am, because I love a start and I love the interaction with all cars because they're so close to each other.
yeah,
So it's my favourite thing in the world, basically, that part of it.
that's awesome. Yeah, I can imagine it being just super intense and getting through that, because the first corner is always the most difficult on the first lap.
Yeah,
So just getting through that without being punted off or taking someone else out.
yeah. There's been quite a
Everything's
few. There's been quite a few stuff and little bumps and stuff, but I've only had a couple of biggies, so yeah, it's not too bad. And the great thing about our racing is the engines aren't that powerful, so we're not going that fast when we hit the barrier or go off. So usually we slow down a fair amount before we hit anything.
yeah, that's a good side of it. What's the biggest oopsie you've had, either in the E30 or the Z cars?
I've in terms of my driver error, I I wouldn't say I've actually done anything wrong to cause anything majorly bad. Maybe when I was new to it, when I was in my first season, maybe there were a few little scrapes and bangs with doors, but nothing major. That was maybe just because I was so in awe of all of it, and there was like 6 cars around me. But nowadays, I'm the biggest oopsie I've had is probably mechanical or other drivers.
Yeah,
And the biggest oopsie was 2019 summer, Brands GP. So I was so excited for it because it's so rare. Done quali, race 1, having a really good battle with an M3, and the second lap or third lap went over the start finish straight, and I must have done Brands Paddock Hill at least, but I must have done it maybe in the thousands of laps or whatever,
yeah,
through instructing, racing, simulator, rah, rah, rah. So I go up to the braking zone, press the brake, and nothing happened because someone had dropped some oil or coolant down. And I was like, it only occurred to me when I tried to steer as well, because the corner was starting to happen, and I thought, this is not good because I'm still going about 100, and the car in front of me is sideways as well. But because of my angle, I usually take quite an aggressive line pointing outside onto the track to be able to get most circumference, or whatever you want to call it, most room. My angle's pointing at the barrier, so
yeah.
I went off, couldn't turn, couldn't brake, and the gravel slowed me by about 80 miles per hour, and I hit the barrier going about, no, 40 miles per hour I hit the barrier. So not good, not good for my neck, not good for my groin where the belt's dug in, but I was all right. And the car was only panel damage, so it's back out there and with its new owner.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
it's been quite good. I mean, I've been racing for 4 or 5 years now, and that's the only big one I've had. So I'm pretty lucky, or whatever you want to call it.
yeah, I mean, it goes to show that the safety of the tracks and the cars is definitely there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even for the lower classes, it's still really safe.
Absolutely. I mean, exactly. Like I said, it rarely happens, and when it does, we've had some other accidents as well. And the roll cages are strong. The cars are strong. So it's great confidence builder, because you know that you're in a strong car, and at the end of the day, that they are easy to drive and accessible. So it just pushes you as a driver to just go as fast as you can. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you think that knowing that the car will protect you lets you push harder, but you've just said that it does, gives you that confidence, exactly. Which is, it's pretty important.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we don't think about those things, and ideally, you just want to think about how to go faster and faster. That you don't want to be thinking about that anyway. So.
Yeah, because if you've got the confidence in the car, you know it'll do it. So you just focus on going fast. Yeah. Okay, so talking about going fast, do you remember the first time that you set a properly good lap and you hit everything as perfectly as you could?
Yes, I do. I just thought of it, and so it was in my first season again, and I think it was the second or third race weekend I'd ever been to, and it was Brands Indy, so a pretty tight circuit. And I used to do TTRS on the Saturday and then PBMW on the Sunday. Mm-hmm. So the Sunday race was most important. So TTRS was almost like a warm-up race, but you'd always have a mix of cars, so it would get a bit lively. And I think I'd had a T-bone from an M3 round Clearways. You'll cut into this right now. And after that, I'd had a smashed window, so we'd actually got gaffer tape all over this window, which you can see now. And I'd lined up for qualifying for PBMW with this car that, was not in the best state. And I absolutely caned it round. And on my last lap, I put in a 58.3, and that put me 4th out of like 25 cars on my third race weekend. And I pulled into Parc Ferme after the race, and someone told me, and I was just like, "Hey, that's quite funny." And they were like, "No, you're P4, mate." And I was like, "What? Let's go."
Man, there's been some heavy windows then.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Lightness, mate. But I was so buzzing, and just after it, at dinner and in the evening, I was just so happy. So that would be my top lap, or the first time I put in a good lap.
Yeah. Where did you finish that race in the end?
The race didn't go to plan. I can't remember now, but I think back in those days, I was still learning, so I think I didn't get a good start or whatever. But the main thing about that race weekend was the qualifying.
No, that's brilliant.
I'd love to go back and do it again now, see where I'd come. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest lesson that you learned in your first year?
To be honest, I can tell you my biggest lesson overall, and I can tell you my first lesson in the first year. First year would probably be consistency. That's probably what I first noticed, because if I do a fast lap, I necessarily couldn't do it all the time. So what I've done over the years is become consistent, and I could probably bang in the same lap time, lap after lap now in the Zeds. And overall, I think the biggest lesson I've learned altogether is keep on the black stuff. And as soon as you start going out of shape, one, you're going to knack your tyres, and two, if you're risking it just for, it actually makes you go a little bit slower as well if you're pushing it over the limit. And two, if you go into the barrier, one, it hurts. Two, it's expensive. And three, you don't get to finish the race. So my biggest lesson now is work with the car. You know, if the car's not there and you're slower than someone, you shouldn't go out there and push too much. You should always be at the limit, but keep it on the black stuff and keep racing. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, at least get around and finish the race.
Yeah, and I mean, I still send it all the time, but I'm not like over the limit. You know, if you understand.
Yeah. Would you use the Brands Hatch last year as an example? You know, the first day your car was really badly set up, and I think the leader was finished 18 seconds ahead of you. But the second day, when you got the car set up, it was a lot closer. So
it was close.
The first day you weren't pushing. Well, you were pushing, but you weren't. You're pushing to the car.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I'll use all the track. I'll brake as late as I can, as hard, and I'll turn in as hard as I can and get the rotation right. But I'm not going to go out my way and go onto the gravel or the grass pushing too hard with understeer or whatever. You know, you have to just finish the race and suck it up and try and improve the car, improve your driving or whatever, and just be better next time. Because, you know, if you write your car off, it doesn't help anyone.
No.
So that's my biggest thing, I'd say. And what I'd say to beginners is, you know, you have to start somewhere, you have to be consistent, you have to build yourself. There's no point going out there and pushing beyond your limits or the car's limits, because it's not going to build you as a driver.
Yeah. What do you think is easier to get to? Is it easier to get to the car's limits, or is it easier to get to your limits?
That's a good question, because for me at the moment, it's 100% the car. I feel when I'm in a Z, I feel quite comfortable, because I've been doing it quite a while now. I'll get to the car's limit as straight away now, and I feel quite comfortable keeping it there, and I could probably do it all day. But when I was starting, I say it to people I instruct and friends, my dad. I say, when you first get in that race car, it doesn't matter what you've driven or driven on the road or whatever. You get onto the track and your mind is going crazy, because you're thinking, oh my God, I'm at this famous racetrack. There's a corner there, there's a hill there, and there's and then you put a person next to you in another race car, and your head's all over the place, and you know, you suddenly find it difficult to look in your mirrors, or you find it difficult to change gear. So when I started off, I felt as if my learning curve was really good, but certainly I reached my limit before the car. But now I'm completely relaxed in the car, and it's definitely the car that limits me.
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think my experience of it is when I went out in Z1 at Bedford, and I went out on track, and I was like, I'm in a race car, and there are loads of other cars around me, and I don't know the track at all. Because I turned up to that thinking that we're going to go in the 2.2 with the passenger seat, and here we turn up. Yeah. It's the Z4 3-litre and one seat, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. And it took me a couple laps, and I kept getting blue flagged. I was like, fucking get on with it. You need to drive the car. This is a race car. Stop messing about. It's like, right, just you've played loads of games. You know how the car works. You know what you're meant to do on a track. Just go for it. Your body will feel it. I was like, all right, let's go for it. And I just started building it up. But I was definitely limiting the car that day. But I think I managed to push it enough where I wasn't getting blue flagged all the time.
To be honest, I'm really chuffed that's how you went about it, because that's what I tell everyone that's new to it. You know, you have to start low and just build up, because there's no point pushing too much and then falling off a cliff, and then you're constantly worried within yourself about doing it again. So that is the right way to go about it.
Yeah, if I pushed too hard and fell off the cliff, that's not my race car. I just smashed into the barrier.
Yeah, and that. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I would say I've got some questions from fans, but I actually just put it up on a couple of forums and asked people what they want to ask a racing driver.
Oh, mate, next time.
Yeah, maybe we'll get some fan questions next time. But one of the questions was, how do you look after your tyres during the race?
Okay, because we do sprint races, it's not so important as endurance races. All I would say is we keep a very strict eye on our tyre pressures. So from qualifying or practice, you can come in as much as you want, and you're obviously not affecting your race position. So I usually do a few laps, just dial in those pressures so they're not too high by the end of a stint. So that's the first method. And the second method is just, driving style, because you want to be using the tyre grip as much as possible. But what you don't want to be doing is slipping the tyres. And the only way you do that in a rear-wheel drive car is going too aggressive with the throttle. But most circuits are quite kind to us. It's difficult to loosen the rear end because on a fast-flowing corner, the power is not great enough to let it loose. So as long as you're sensible, that's how you look after the tyres. It's mainly just driver setup, really. But like I said, we send it as hard as possible, and as long as your tyre pressures are all right, they'll last you those 20 minutes.
Yeah. I think this might be the same kind of answer then, or similar kind of answer. What do you do when you get thirsty in the car? Do you just drink before and afterwards? Because if it's a sprint race, you don't. What about something like Burkitt then, when you're in for stints?
No, you're right. Absolutely, great question. Because being thirsty in a car is not nice. Or needing to go for a number one or whatever or more. It's terrible. It's a horrible feeling. So I always have about, I'd say, anywhere between half a litre or a litre of water, maybe an hour and a half before the start of our session, or 2 hours before. And then after that, I'll just sip just to keep my, keep a bit of hydration. But then the aim is to go to the loo maybe 10, 20 minutes before you get in the car. Because then, one, you're hydrated, and two, you don't have to worry about going to the loo.
Yeah.
And then ideally, I'd have my pit crew or my friends to have a bottle of water with them in the assembly area, and I can just have a quick swig before we put our lids on.
Yeah, cool. I think that'll help whoever asked that question. It's a nice insight. Yeah, because you guys don't have any water bottles on you or any water things in the car.
No, we just get on with it. Yeah. But in endurance races, the Burkitt, same technique, and then when I come in, I'm pretty thirsty. But endurance racing is next level of planning and preparation. So yeah.
Yeah. Would you give the same tyre answer to an endurance race like Burkitt? Just watch the power and it's the driver's setup mainly to keep the tyres.
100%. Same. But in an endurance race, you want to dial it down anyway, because one, look after your tyres, and two, if you push too much and go off, especially in the Burkitt, you don't let yourself down, you let the team down. And we're always at about 95%. I still send it, but I'm usually within that sort of window of looking after the car, looking after the tyres.
Yeah, cool. So, do you remember your first win in a race?
Yeah, so it was a class win in TTRS in my E30, and it was at Rockingham. So it was great because Rockingham's closed now as a circuit, and it's fantastic. It was really hard on the tyres, but I remember, it's great actually, because I was having a great battle with a couple of other cars, and I think maybe on the last few laps I did a massive overtake, which you'll cut to now. And I literally slammed it down the inside going into the first corner. And so you're going about 120 miles per hour into a hairpin, and I slammed it up the inside. And then, so I took the win, which you'll cut to now. And I pulled into the assembly area, apart Ferme, and I just got waved through as if I hadn't won. Because usually they'd be like, yeah, won, or whatever. And I was like, oh, maybe I haven't then. So I just drove back to the van, and I was just like, oh, it was a great race. I was well chuffed with it anyway. And they're like, yeah, you've won. And I was like, oh, go back to the podium then. And because Rockingham, we were in the outer paddock, and it took about 5 minutes just to drive over there. So I got back and celebrated. But yeah, it was great. It was fantastic. And I'm sure you'll have to remind me to send you all this footage.
Yeah, definitely. Because it'd be great to put it up so people can see. Yeah, I mean, I remember the first last year's Donington race that Steve said that you're an absolute lunatic, overtaking him on the grass sideways, and like, yeah, I mean, you can see it all started. It all started in that E30.
Oh yeah, mate. Oh
yeah. Yeah. So who do you have like a motorsport inspiration, like any driver in particular, or is it just something that you got into?
Ooh, I'm sure I could think of one. But as an inspiration, okay, yeah, probably Hans Stuck. I think he was a factory driver for BMW Motorsport, and there's an epic video of him going around the Nürburgring in the M3 GTR. And I used to remember watching that when I wouldn't know how old I was, but I would just watch him think BMW Nürburgring, and it's fantastic. And he's commentating on it, watching it back, and it's just great. I love listening to a German talking about motorsport. It's so great.
Is that where your kind of like love for BMW started?
I mean, my love for BMWs has been in the family since I was born. But I would say watching BMWs race, because from my era, it was all the really, well, in my eyes, because it was my era, I guess, or our era. I've just got a big heart for old Beamers. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I grew up watching watching F1. So it was the red car. That's Michael Schumacher.
Yeah,
Ferrari.
And that.
Yeah, so I grew up loving Ferraris. But then I think since I got my Z3, I've loved the BMWs. And I'll look at Mercedes, and they just don't look the same. They don't look as nice. There's just something about BMWs that just look and feel so much nicer.
Yeah, I mean, they are designed to be like a driving machine, or however they promote it. But it is the truth, because you get in other brands, and they're lovely and they drive nice, but you get in a BMW and you feel really connected to it, and it's got lovely balance between comfort and handling. So I love them.
Yeah. Would you like to, if you could, would you take the Z4s and build them to a higher level and race them? I don't know what a high level would be for, because it would be a GT class then, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So our next aim is we're looking to move to the E89 Z4. I can't drop any more hints than that, but that's what our next step is.
Fair enough. So are you going to try and progress your driving career through Z cars and through the Z4s, or do you think that you'll go branch out and try to grab other opportunities that are out there?
Well, as far as I can see, Z cars all the way. But as always, I'm always looking for other opportunities to do alongside Z cars, get my name out there. I'd love to go down the GT route. It's my aim at the end of the day. But in Z cars, we have such a good laugh. can't complain, and we've got some great mates, and it's just epic. So I'm happy where I am, but I'm always looking to climb the ladder.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. You said that there's always, it's a great place to be, and there's always great racing. I know the commentators, whenever we go to a race, they always say, "Oh, we had the Z cars last year in the TTRS, and now they've got their own grid. The racing's always really close, and there's always something happening. And every race, there's always something happening. There's always battles up and down the field, and it's
Exactly.
always exciting
So
to watch."
I mean, it doesn't get any more fun than what we do, and I know that because people that come and have a go or jump in one or etc., they always say this is where it's most fun, and this is great. So
Yeah, that is good. Right, I'm gonna go to my list of questions that I had prepared because I can't remember all
okay,
of
mate.
them. Okay, so this will be a fun one. Do you remember the first time that you did a bit of a cheeky burnout?
Cheeky burnout. A burnout. So I used to do racing starts at the under 17 car club when no one was looking. So I think I'd do it in the RX-8 or a Peugeot 306 GTI 6 or whatever, and I literally just, I was quite young, so I just bury the throttle, dump the clutch, and scare my mum or whatever. But the first proper drift or burnout or whatever you want to call it was probably under 17 car club related, but it was like a rally day at Silverstone in like an old Capri, no, an old Escort even. Or the skid pan day at Castle Combe, yeah, again when I was like 14 or something. So that's that.
Yeah. Do you think that doing like the skid pan days and the drifting days helped you in the races?
100%, because I did it when I was quite young, so I absorbed it all as like a sponge. So I definitely recommend it to learn car control and to learn the physics of the car.
Yeah, and that must be a lot of learning where the limit is, so you can push to that point to where it's just about to slip and hold it right there. But you'd have to be able to know what it feels like over that limit to know where it starts to go off.
Yeah, exactly. So 3 things: 1, being comfortable with it; 2, knowing where it is and where's the fastest point; and 3, knowing what to do when it goes wrong. That's the main 3 things to learn from it.
Yeah, because I remember seeing you the first year. I think it was 2018. The last round was at Brand, and you came down Paddock Hill sideways because I think either your windscreen had fogged up or the windscreen wipers had stopped working. And by the time you realised that you had to turn, by the time you realised or looked for the braking point, it was gone. So you ended up coming down sideways and you held it. And that's really
it happens
impressive.
quite a lot. 2017, 2018, 2019. I'm sure it'll happen again this year. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's cool. Right. There are probably a couple more. Okay, so yeah, kind of turning to isolation questions. How are you keeping sharp outside of a race car?
So I do exercise and simulator. So I keep my driving skills up with the iRacing and our mate Callum's rig. And it's almost like driving a real car, apart from the G-forces and the visibility. So I like to think that that's keeping me on my toes, and I'm actually sort of looking to improve a little bit because I'm new to it, so I'm learning lots. And then exercise, I'm probably the fittest I've been thanks to lockdown. I'm exercising every day, whereas I'd probably just go into the gym and do weights before lockdown. Now I'm doing a lot of cycling and a lot of running as well. So I usually run at least 5k, probably do that in, I think I do 5k in about half an hour or 29 minutes. So and then cycling I go for about an hour and a half whenever I'm not running. And then I've recently got a set of dumbbells from a friend, and I am trying to work on getting a bit of strength back, because obviously the gyms are shut. I don't have any access to weights, so it's great to get them, and I'm going to be doing that once every 3 days, and just rotate it.
Nice. And obviously fitness affects your driving, or your ability to drive for longer. What do you think the most important exercises are for making sure you're racing fit?
Okay, it's definitely neck, because I mean, depends which car you're in. Some race cars have really heavy brakes. We don't have that in the Z cars, so I would say probably your shin and your calf muscle is one of them for certain race cars, not for Z cars. Z cars, we've got power steering, so you don't need to be necessarily that strong with your arms. I'd say endurance is, because after you do 1 or 2 sessions, you start to get a bit of lactic acid and you start getting tired. But it's not too physically problematic. But so in our case, it's probably just neck, because after I had my little accident, like I was mentioning earlier, at Brands, my neck was quite painful for the next few months, I'd say.
Really? Wow, that's quite a long time
Yeah,
to hold that.
bit of whiplash, and then it would be fine when I was just doing just normally, but then when I hopped into the car for the Burkett and I had like half an hour stint, it suddenly came back. I wasn't even, it was wet, so I wasn't even going that fast, but a little bit of G-force and me holding my head and helmet started to hurt quite a lot. But now, luckily, it's absolutely fine. So, and I try and do some neck exercises and stretches. And so I'd say neck is probably the most important for a racing driver.
Do you think that working like your neck would be, obviously it's good for whilst you're driving, but do you think it also plays a part in injury prevention? Like if you had a better built neck, do you think that your whiplash would have been to a lesser extent, or maybe lasted a little bit less?
Possibly, yes. And also we're going to fit cars with eared seats. So imagine if you didn't have an eared seat in a Formula One car nowadays and they had a crash, their head would fall off basically. But because the Formula One boys are sat like that, they crash and they just get out and they're fine pretty much. But even in a crash as little as mine at 40 miles per hour, my neck was really sore for the next few weeks. So I'd say you need to invest in your safety equipment 100%. And like, yeah, you're right. Doing a bit of exercising and keeping fit will also prevent injuries as well.
Cool. Yeah, that's really good insight into that. I mean, luckily I've not put anything into a barrier, so I've not had to experience that. I mean, if I'm, I guess, lucky enough to get onto the racetrack at some point, it might happen. Hopefully not. But yeah, I mean, it's yeah, again, it just goes to show that all of the safety stuff still works there, but it's not, even at the Z cars level, it's not a turn up and turn up hungover, jump in the car and race. It has to have some form of preparation to it.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. We wouldn't do that. We just have water and do a 5K run in the morning before the race.
And so yeah. after you do your races, do you? I know you guys have got GoPros in the car. Do you go back over them and go like corner by corner and say, right, this lap, this corner could have moved over to this side a little bit more? And do you really analyze it?
100%, mate. The best thing about recording, and we've also got an AIM Solar, which is just a little data logger, which we mainly use as speed trace, and if you want to see where you can improve with one of your mates, you can really train that driver. I usually don't use it because usually I'm asked for my aim solo to use as a reference. But I learn quite a lot from watching them as well. So looking at where they can be better sort of reinforces what I need to do as a driver. So it is good, and I just enjoy watching my footage back. Anyway, I upload it to YouTube or whatever, and maybe not even post it public, but I'll watch my stuff over and over again. I'll just get back from a race weekend, and maybe a week later, when the energy's burned off, I'm just thinking I want to be out on track, and I just put it on and watch it as TV.
Yeah, I mean, if when you're watching a proper good lap, or you've hit that apex and you're watching it back, do you still get the same feeling of, oh, that was good?
Oh yeah, no, I really appreciate. Yeah, I appreciate it, and I love seeing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, damn it! I had a question, but I've forgotten it now.
What was the first racing game you played?
Oh, yeah, we'll go with that one. First racing game. The first racing game I played, I think, if it wasn't Mario Kart, I've actually got it here. It was this F1 Racing.
Oh,
this is like
is that for PC?
Yeah. It was like 2003 or something, 2001 game, and my dad set it up and had a Thrustmaster steering wheel and pedal set, and all I wanted to do was drive fast in the red car, which the first track I raced on, being Monza, doesn't exactly help because you start and you stop immediately. I was like, well, I don't want to do that, and I keep getting overtaken. So I didn't really learn then. But yeah, then it was Mario Kart Double Dash and the OG Need for Speed Underground. I don't care what anyone says about Underground 2. Need for Speed Underground is where it's at. That was where it's at, and it still is. And I still play that game, and I love it. It's amazing. How about you? How was your first racing game?
Very nice. To be honest, like you said, I probably had something before, but I don't remember it. The ones that stand out to me are Need for Speed Underground 2 and Need for Speed Most Wanted.
Yeah, I've had a couple of the Need for Speed games. They're good. And then I think the first proper, I guess, or modern-ish racing game where you had good physics to take into account, I think it was Forza Motorsport 4, which is what I'm actually playing now, sat in lockdown. And I think that's where I learned a lot about like racing line and actually no, I'll tell a lie. Actually, I learned a lot about racing line and Need for Speed Underground because I do the first track. I spent hours just trying to get my lap time down. And I remember figuring out if I took a corner a little bit tighter, it would shoot me out further out to the edge of the circle or to the edge of the street, but it would give me more length to build up speed. So at the end of the straight, I'd be going faster than if I'd taken a wider line coming out of the corner and a tighter one going down the straight. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going faster. I spent hours doing that. To be fair, I think racing games and getting my lap time down is the only thing I can spend hours doing.
Yeah. 100%, mate. 100%.
Although that did remind me of the question I was going to ask you, and it was actually another fan question.
Yeah.
How do you learn the racing line of a track, and how do you figure out what is the best racing line?
Okay, so when I was new to it all, I probably would just watch people on YouTube. The previous owner for my E30, he was a great driver, so I learned a lot just by watching him. And just sort of when you start to understand the concept of it, I would literally just rock up to a new track such as Cadwell, and I created my own line, and I think I created that line within the first hour, and I've never changed it since. And I've tried to do different things, but I don't improve. So the line I found in an hour is my fastest line, at least, and I sort of picked that up through intuition. So that's all I would say. And it's basic. You know, you need to be carrying as much speed as you can, but you don't want to be affecting your straight line speed for the next straight. And also, you want to be using all the track. So a bit of physics, you know, centripetal force. You want to maximize that. And in essence, the tyres can only do so much. So that's your limiting factor, as long as you look after them. So to maximise the speed, you maximise the radius, and that's it really. And just keeping your momentum as high as possible through the whole of the corner. You don't want to overbrake, you don't want to underbrake and scrub loads of speed mid-corner and also come out at a bad angle where you're just going to be getting slaughtered on the straight. So as long as you stick to those steps and you're confident with it, you can't go wrong.
Yeah. And you're studying at uni now, aren't you? Still, what are you studying?
So I'm studying mechanical engineering at Southampton. I have done 2 years. I've got another 2 years at uni, but I've been on a year in industry at Rolls-Royce motor cars. So I finish at Rolls-Royce end of July, and then I go back for another 2 years in September, all being well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be quite old when I leave finally.
Yeah,
but hopefully it will pay off.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that is because you said, physics and all, you use all of the track, and you study mechanical engineering. Do you think that, obviously, people think that the car racing or motorsport and mechanical engineering, they go together, and do you think that you've seen that maybe you've learned something at uni that you've taken to the track and it's improved your time or improved your driving or even the car?
100%. I mean, when I first started engineering, I would say the racing helped the engineering because I'd understand, physics and dynamics questions a bit better. And then, like you said, when I start to understand how things work, I could apply that to the real racing. But at the end of the day, you can only do so much to the car, and then after that we have a good laugh and just drive as hard as possible, mate.
Yeah, no, that's all good. All right, I'm gonna do some quickfire questions, completely away from cars and motorsport, to get to know you a little bit. These are some really important questions, and I'll start with, what's your favourite crisp flavour?
Oof. I would say prawn cocktail.
Prawn cocktail. That seems to be a popular one among other people's channels and their podcast guests, actually. What's your favourite song right now?
Oh, mate. Okay, I've got so many favourite songs at the moment. I would say, as one everyone would know, it would probably be. I can't even remember the name. You might have to cut it. Yeah, you might have to cut. You might have to ask me again, and you can just cut it. Let me figure it out.
Fine, look for it, or even give us the name of the song that no one knows.
Okay, mate. Okay, in that case, so if you cut it, and it looks as if I've just said it. What is Love by Sonny Fodera.
Sorry?
What is Love by Sonny Fodera. It's a banging house song. Go and search it.
Have you put that on your Instagram story recently?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, tell you what, you should overlay it when I say it, and then you can edit all this rubbish talk out. I'm just looking on my phone and mate.
Nah,
okay.
It's all right. We're doing a casual hangout. Do you have any pets?
I do. I have a black Labrador. She is nearly 13. She's actually 13 this month, and she's doing really well, and we love her to bits.
Nice. What's her name?
Lucy Lou.
Lucy Lou, lovely, lovely. She must be loving it with all you guys staying at home.
She must be so fed up with us. Like, she probably has to be on duty all day rather than having a sleep. But no, she does love it. She's so happy at the moment.
That's good. And what is your favourite snack? Your favourite snack?
Ooh, it's difficult. I don't snack, but I will usually just have main meals. I'm not a pudding person. I'll usually just have a packet of crisps with my drink, and then dinner. But if one comes to me, I'll mention it.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, Jamie. It's been really insightful, really, really good talking to you about kind of your journey through motorsport and all your little helpful tips for all the parts of it.
Thank you for having me, mate.
No, it's been good. It's been good. And we'll probably have a chat with the Z-Cars catch up later on.
Will do. Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people will find what, or your information at least, really helpful, and I hope they do.
Brilliant.
So
I'm going to go for my bike ride now, get some exercise in, and I'll speak to you soon, mate.
Yeah. All right. Take care, and
Cool.
yeah, see you later.
See you later, mate.
Don't you see I'm shy? 'Cause when I